Special welcome to all our listeners. And today I am super excited to be in conversation with Shawn. Shawn, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Beautiful. Shawn, just to kick off our conversation, please can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the journey that you've walked in your career to be where you are today?
Okay. So basically, worked for the corporates all my life, for majority of my life, and all in technology. So always been involved in technology companies. And a couple of years ago, I basically did an MBA, and that opened up a whole can of worms for me in terms of entrepreneurship. So I decided to start an entrepreneurial journey here in South Africa and basically create what we know as Oculus today. And basically, I'm the CEO and founding member with my partner called, his name's Andrew. And really, it's about bringing technology to the market and creating great tech that people want to use on a daily basis.
Wonderful, wonderful. Such a beautiful story. So, do you know that's how I also got into business? Once I did my
Okay.
MBA, and I had this whole thing that by the time I turned 30, I should have an MBA. And,
Yes.
true to my words, at 30, I graduated. And at that point, I was like, I'm starting my own business. That's how I started, obviously inspired by all, the knowledge that you acquire from an MBA. And I think
Yeah.
that's what MBAs should do, right? They should actually
Well,
inspire people.
exactly. But there's two different sides to the MBA. I actually, because I was a corporate animal at the time, I actually
Yeah.
thought that the MBA would be, because I was looking at all the guys that were got the big positions within the
Yeah.
corporates. They had MBA. So I was like, okay, well, how do I climb the ladder, the corporate ladder? And one of the tick boxes, what I thought was MBA, and not knowing to the journey was more about pushing me into entrepreneurship and not into mid and upper management type of thing. So it didn't do what I wanted to do. So it was bittersweet, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's been much better to have the MBA and to be an entrepreneur at the end of the day.
Yeah. Listen, I think we all go into an MBA with that kind of mindset. Like,
Yeah,
because at some point, the big jobs were associated with an MBA. But
yeah,
for me, I think, a master's in business administration, in fact, that curriculum should be geared towards people becoming entrepreneurs because we
hundred
do
percent.
need many people to actually run their own businesses to solve their unemployment problem that we're sitting with.
100%. Do you know what I think is what I loved about the MBA? Well, it almost like it gave you the crib notes to the business world. So I mean, if I could really take what I've learned in MBA and give it to other people, and
Mm,
to learn the end-to-end conversation, because that's where the power in that MBA comes. Is you can chat to a financial director, you can chat to an operational director, you can chat to operational manager, you can chat to end. So it gives you really those crib notes around how to be like a good business leader or good
mm.
business person, and especially in being entrepreneurial, you don't necessarily speak to one segment of a business. You speak to various different. I think it gives you those special crib notes to help you be successful in entrepreneurship. I think that's the big part to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Mm.
totally agree with that. Let's talk about entrepreneurship journey. When did you get into this journey and how has this journey been for you?
Yeah, well, it's I mean, it's the word bittersweet and good and bad. So it's
Mhm.
I think I mean in my corporate career I was actually quite lucky in the corporates that I've worked for. They had a entrepreneurial mindset. So so I got stuck in the corporates for a long time because my companies that I worked for were entrepreneurial. So one of my bosses would always say, "You are the master of your own destiny in this organization. How hard you work or what you put in is what you'll get out." And
Mm,
basically, if you can run a business within a business, so you've got all the tools, all the different departments that you can leverage. You just got to know how to leverage it, and then you can make the money. So it was always exciting to work for these corporates that operated in that way. So that sort of sparked this whole entrepreneurship, is that you can, within a business, run your own little division or your mini business and be able to be successful. So that was sort of like how I got introduced to entrepreneurship. And then I think as you go up the corporate ladder, you start realizing that, I mean, you could probably do this yourself. So what I did is, while I was in the corporates, I dabbled and I'd invested in little companies on the side and things like that, never having the almost like the ability or thinking that I could do it, to jump out and go do it, take the risk and do it 100%. So I was always like dabbling on the sideline. And then basically, like I said, when I did the MBA, I realized, but I mean, what is the point to this? There's a whole world out there, and you can really craft your own destiny. So basically, that's where the entrepreneurial journey started. Was like the corporates were teaching me how to do it, and then after a while, I decided, well, I can actually do this myself. I don't need the backing of these big corporates, and I could probably do it a little bit better, and with my own culture and with my own methodologies and my own mindset. So, and that's really what Oculus is about. Is we trying to build something different, where we got this really great culture and people feel that they can speak, they can learn, and so forth. So really, you can stamp your own ability or your own what you want to achieve on people around you and make it better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about Oculus.
Yes.
What is your business all about, and what is the motivation behind your business?
Yeah. So interesting, Sarah, is like when I was working in the corporates, there's always been this problem about data. So I remember the days when I like say would spend 2-3 days a month. My IT guys would throw me with a lot of data, and basically I'd sit on Excel spreadsheets and build reports and then present it to the business, and then they wouldn't like it, and they'd add, and so it was very tedious. But I really saw a lot of value in the data, because, like I say, I was at the time I was doing a lot of IT outsourcing, so I had a lot of customers, and they always wanted to know the services they were receiving, how good and bad they were. And they're always looking for those anomalies, like say, out of the 500 things that have gone wrong in the month, what are the ones that are really impacting the business the most? So when I started this business, Oculus, we saw there's a need in the market to be able to take guys' data and then present it in an easy way that they could understand it. Because, like I say, data it's all lovely and great, but a human cannot discern from a big tabular data or from a big Excel spreadsheet where the things are good, bad, and ugly. So basically, we've taken our product where we would want to like visualize what the data looks like, so that a human can actually understand it. And then really, it's about being able to find those things. So go intelligently, drill into the data, and sort of find those things that you can make decisions with. And so that was sort of the original intent of Oculus, is just to show companies or give people the ability to see their data and be able to find those things that were problematic. But as you know, within when you're in an entrepreneurial journey, it's never that simple. The guy, then you think you've arrived, and you say, guys, this is what it is in the market. And then they say, oh, but that's great, but I want more. So really, Oculus has evolved over the years to add more. So the second part, what guys were saying to us, is that, they don't have the time to go and every day look into the data and find those 5 or 2 things that are wrong in their business. They want something to be able to present those things in an automated way. So we built this whole, an automation engine that has a couple of rules, like if this, then that. So basically send the stuff to the person that has to make the decisions in real time, so that he doesn't have to go at the end of the month, look through all the things that are wrong. He wants to know now what's going wrong, and then push it back into some system, or let him know, or let the business know what's going on. And that was really a sort of revolution in terms of our business, is that you can automate the decision-making process. And where Oculus is now at the moment is we're looking at what the future is. So we use a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence, and basically saying with the same data that they're receiving on in their business, is starting to look at what the future will look like and start predicting and saying, will this machine break? Will my debtors not pay? Will my customers churn? And finding those scenarios that people want to look at and know what's going to happen in the future, in their business in a future state, so they can already start planning and start looking for those things. So in a nutshell, I mean, I'm going a little bit into detail because obviously I love what we do here at Oculus,
Yeah.
but the fact is that it's about end-to-end data. So seeing what's happened in the past, acting right now in real time, and then looking at what the future can hold for you, and finding that competitive advantage in terms of your market space. So that's Oculus in a nutshell. I hope that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense and
Yeah.
wonderful, because that kind of service is needed now more than ever, right? Because
100%.
most of the business is data driven. People are making decisions based on data, and really, if you don't have facilities like that, you become disadvantaged, right? Because you
Yeah.
can't even predict what the future will look like. So, yeah.
100%. And yesterday I was at that electro mining job, and we spoke to a lot of people, and the underlying discussion is data. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of operational stuff happening, but data is like, how do we commercialize data? How do we improve? How do we become? I mean, it's like almost like a Swiss Army knife. There's an extra piece here that you need to add to your business to make you more competitive. So how do you leverage the data you're generating it all the time? How do you leverage it in a way that you can get competitive advantage, which is important to today's times? Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's talk about big data. A lot of companies struggle with big data, but before we get into just the big data conversation, like I said to you before we started recording, the whole point of this podcast is to make things easy for the person on the street, okay,
100%.
non-technical people, to
Thank you for
understand.
reminding
Yeah.
me. Thank you
Yes.
for reminding me.
Yes. So I'd love you to just explain to us what is big data, and secondly, what is data warehousing?
Okay. So yeah,
Because
it's an interesting fact. So if you think about, maybe I can break it down into two pieces. So what we call, you get two different types of data in majority. The first one would be transactional data. So if you think about it, is, say for example, your ERP system or your accounting system. So what happens is, when you're working in terms of your application, on a daily basis, you adding in an invoice, you putting in a PO, you uh, tracking that people have paid you, all that information that you're capturing in a sheet or a form or whatever the case is going into a database. So it gets stored in a way that your application can use it whenever it does. So that's what we call transactional database. It's happening in real time. You know, you're adding an invoice, you adding a new customer, you're sending out a quote. All that data is put into a way that can be stored in a way that you can retrieve it later. Then what happens is you get what you call analytical database. So analytical database is when you take that data that's transacting. So you can just imagine it's in real time. People are working on it, and it's adding and stuff like that. So it's not really good to using that data to analyze it when it's happening in real time, because you can just imagine it's like trying to clean the tires on your vehicle when you're riding at 120 k's an hour. It's not optimal to do that. You want the wheel to be standing still so you can clean it. So what we do is, then we take that data out and we put it into what you call a analytical database, and then you can put on analytical, or you can interrogate it, look what it's doing and stuff like that. So almost you want to separate between transactional and transactional and interrogating type of data. So the thing is, where big data comes in is what you're doing is, say, for example, you've got 20 different systems in your environment, and that's what happens a lot. So you've got an ERP system, you've got a CRM system, you've got these various different systems that because you can't really have one system that can do everything to you, because
Mm,
each system is designed differently, and it meets a different role. So what a lot of customers want to do is they want to take all these different data from different sources, and they want to push it into one place, one single pane of glass where you can do it. So that would what we call a data warehouse. So you're warehousing all your data in one place so that you
mm,
can start aggregating the data around what you want to see. So because you've got information that comes from your CRM system, so lead management possibly, and you've got information that's running from your maybe your ERP system that's doing the invoicing and so forth, and you want to merge it and you want to put it together and say, okay, how many leads did I send out versus how many invoices I got? So then
mm,
you can sort of interrogate data on an aggregated basis. So that's data warehousing in terms of that. So people want to bring all the information from the disparate systems into one place so that they can start analyzing and finding nuggets of information. Because that's really what analytics is about, is finding those good, bad, and ugly stuff in your business and saying, okay, well,
mm,
who's the guy that I spend the most time on lead management and gives me the least amount of of business,
mm,
and basically start saying, well, using the Pareto principle and saying, oh well, 80-20 split, let's rather focus on the guys that I spend 20% doing and getting 80% business with. Let's do that. So that's really what the data warehouse is about, is to bring all the data together so you can have one pane of glass of your customers and your operation and your business. So you can make good decisions with that. So that would be data warehousing. And then what big data is, in the modern term, is in previous before, infrastructure was very limited, and what
mm,
you had to do is you'd have to, and it was very expensive. With the starting of cloud and a lot of technologies today, cloud has become a lot cheaper, or infrastructure has become a lot cheaper. So now you can add additional layers of information to that data warehouse, and the bigger that gets, so you can start adding sensors, you can start adding these some things that add a huge amount of data in real time. So if you think about it, like say for example, your generator,
mm,
it could be generating thousands of data points. What's its temperature? How much petrol it's using, and so forth. And you could have a million generators in your business, using example, but that generating of data is incredibly a lot of data. So that would be what we call big data. So there's newer technologies that can manage that sheer volumes of data and put it into some database and store it and be able to interrogate that data. So you can take data from all your systems, from all your sensors, from everywhere, and store it into some big data engine that can actually manage that data. Because that's the problem with data is when it's small, it's easy to manage. When it's big, you want to be able to give it proper horsepower. So with the advent of a lot of technology, you're getting these type of databases or technology that can manage vast amounts of data and give you those insights around it, whether it be structured or unstructured data. So that's enough. I hope
beautiful.
that answers your question. Yeah.
Yes, it does. Beautiful. So, literally, big data is just a lot of data from different touch points, right?
100%, and feeding into technologies that can actually handle those huge amounts of data. So
Yes.
before we didn't actually have technology that could handle sensory data type stuff. So think about your watches. Imagine the
Mm,
amount of data that's generated from everybody in South Africa on their watches into one. That would be big data. And
mm.
Garmin is pulling it together and presenting it and so forth. So, I mean, there's a lot of use cases for big data, sensory type of data that can be stored and analyzed in real time.
Mm, mm. Thank you so much for explaining that in very clear terms. Let's look
Yeah.
at the best practices that businesses need to consider when it comes to data storage. What are the best practices?
Yeah, so because like I said before, there's a lot of vendors that are starting or have are offering these services in the market. So it's quite discerning. So we also have that same challenge: is like, where do we find these storages that meet our needs? And I think that's the first thing: is what is your needs around these storage capability, or outsourcing it. So the first thing to me is like, whenever I look at it, is about location. So a lot of database, or these hosters of cloud services or big storage, are in various different countries and stuff. So it's really about what type of data you're storing, where it's allowed. So a lot of organizations in South Africa are quite uh, strict around where their data resides. So it might be that, the type of data that you have needs to reside in the confines of South Africa, or in confines somewhere else. So the location of the databases or the data provider is very important. I think what is even more topical at the moment is security. I mean, have the guys got a track record? Where do they put the data? Do they have all the necessary uh, positions, or whatever in place, that the data is safe and secure? I think that's very topical, and especially if it's data that's resourcing around people, names and account numbers, ID numbers. We've heard about a lot of data leaks that have happened. So it's really, what are the type of data, and the security around it, if it's in a registered company that can actually make or give you some sort of guarantee around the safety of your data. And then I guess also it's around the type of data that you're going to store. I mean, is it transactional data? What do you want to do with it? Is it just a storage oriented data, or do you want to interact with the data? You want to put some sort of like an Oculus on top of it, and in real time. So you need to understand what the performance that you want to have in terms of that. So if it's just storage, you can put low end stuff. If it's really want to be transactional, how is the technology around it, and what can it actually offer you? And I think lastly is around the costs and performance. So certain of these big cloud vendors, you can see a vast difference in terms of the costing that you do. So that what you call the bang for your buck is how much it costs for what do you get. And but it also turns back then to security and what they offer. So in terms of these cloud providers, you have to do your homework in terms of end-to-end, looking into the solution that you want to do. Where it is, the security, what data you're going to put on, how much performance you want, your cost, and so forth. So it's quite a journey that you need to go to figuring out the right solution provider for your needs. I hope that makes sense, Sarah.
It makes a lot of sense. And so my next question would be, what are the options then that a business would have to consider when it comes to data storage? Is it all cloud based? What are the different options that businesses can explore?
Yeah, I think the whole thing, what we've seen with a lot of our customers is, especially with Oculus, is we found that it's really about the customer's preference. So we've had some customers that are being very security oriented, and they want to lock down Oculus into a specific data center on their own infrastructure. So they don't mind going to buy the infrastructure. They put up all the rules and regulations. So some customers are very still in the on-premise private cloud type of environments. Then I find some customers are right to put some stuff into the cloud, in some areas, but then they have maybe mission critical line of business applications that they still keep on premise. And then you get some customers that they've bought into the whole cloud journey end to end, and they don't want to own the infrastructure, and everything is in the cloud. So I guess it's the appetite from the customer themselves, what they feel in terms of security, their feeling around it, or their knowledge of what type of data they have, what type of performance they want. So it's a very difficult one to ask, because everybody has their own journey. From us at our data center, our data centers are all in the cloud. So everything that we do is in the cloud. Our whole business runs off notebooks, and everything is in the cloud. So I guess it's pretty much the type of business that you are, and how close you want your data to you, and your operations to you. Yes.
So I'm actually yeah, go on.
But I must say, I've seen, especially with a lot of the infrastructure that's that's becoming secure stuff, so fiber, A lot of organizations like Terrico lately, everything has become very, very, the uptime is amazing. So the guys are seeing that it's a lot easier. Before they would say, "Oh, it's better in my own data center. I can control it." But a
Mm.
lot of these vendors that are using today are up 100% of the time, so you don't really have that worry anymore. So I think it's becoming a lot more mature, the cloud vendors.
Mm. Mm. So would I be right to actually think of cloud data storage more like a rental place, right? Where you rent for your data to be stored.
Yeah, it's like for our business, it's been fantastic because, like I say, if I had to replicate what our business does in terms of data for our customers, the amount I'd have to have somebody physically managing hardware every single day. I'd be buying
Mm.
servers every single day, just managing the stuff. So to me, it's been absolutely amazing that I can go to a provider, pay on a daily basis, on an hourly
Mm-hmm.
basis, on what I want to use. I can
Mm-hmm.
scale it up, I can scale it down. I get new customers, I scale up. A customer wants to take his operation down smaller, doesn't want to do so much data work anymore. I can scale down. So the flexibility of these cloud vendors is absolutely amazing. And the commitments that the guys are doing these days, it's not like they wanting, like when you buy hardware, you want a 5-year commitment with hardware. You
Mm.
can literally have a minute commitment on off on off. So I think it's really speaking to this whole how society is going. This easy on, easy off, quickly and easy. So very good. Yeah.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's get into the Internet of Things.
Yeah.
Let's
Interesting
start
topic.
by defining what that is, because that in itself is a big word. When we talk about Internet of Things, what do we mean? What are we talking about? What should come to people's mind?
Well, like I said, maybe I could put it in layman's terms. So I'm not going to give a definition per se. So I think the whole idea Internet of Things isn't a new to concept. So
Hmm.
the manufacturing guys have been doing this for 30, 40 years. So they've been attaching sensors through what we call through devices that can generate data or pull data out of machines and present it in a way and then act. So you know what I mean, like say a machine, they've been connecting to it. They can see what's the speed, what's the temperature, how well it's operating. They can switch the machine on and off with sensors and stuff. So this is not a new concept. It's just a new concept in IoT. So what I would say is that there's this whole new field in terms of Internet of Things, which means that a lot of different devices can be connected. Where in the olden days it used to be very specific machinery that was connected to these devices to manage them. Now the possibilities have opened up endless. So literally anything can be connected to the internet with an IP address or over IP or over telecoms or something like that. So the possibilities are endless that you can literally put a sensor onto anything and monitor it. So whether it be a base station, whether it be a vehicle, whether it be fridge, whether it be your washing machine, whether it be your watch, it's really opened up the world to connect any device that you would want to generate. Excuse me, that you'd want to generate data from, and then be able to bring it into, like I said before, these big data stores and be able to find insights and manage it on that basis. So it's just opening up a new avenue of collecting data from different sources that wasn't possible before. Because, like I said before, big data wasn't really. They didn't have the technology or the infrastructure to do it before. Now we do have it. So basically, we can open up the market to anything. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm. So we are saying Internet of Things is simply the connection of different devices, right? That are
100%.
connected by, either wireless or, just by internet.
LTE or internet, over cell phone, over different wireless technology. So really, you can go to remote areas, connect up a mine. You can connect up,
Mm,
anything to the internet and stream the data, and then be able to react with that data. like what in the past was happening where the guys could switch off equipment, switch on equipment. So a great use case is I've been speaking to a couple of guys lately where they do smart IoT devices for your home, and
Yes.
basically where you can manage your geyser from remote
Yes.
space and switch it on, switch it off, schedule it, and everything. Where before you'd have to get an electrician out to come hardwire
Mm.
your switch and be able to put a little sensor on there and set it and things. Now you put in a switch and you manage it from your cell phone, and you can switch it on
Yes.
and off. And when you go and leave, you switch it on and off. You can switch the lights on and off in your house. So it's
Mm.
opening up so much more automation in terms of opportunities for businesses as well. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I love
Yeah.
that example. I was actually going to talk about that because that then brings it very much at home. Because
Yeah.
when people hear Internet of Things, they're just thinking it's corporate, it's out there, but it's
Yeah.
things that we're interacting with on a daily basis, even in a home
Yeah.
setup. Like you said,
Yeah.
if you're going to switch on your lights using your cell phone, for
Yeah.
example, an app on your cell phone, that is part of the IoT, right?
Yeah, and you just imagine the opportunities that are going to come around for businesses and for consumers
Mm,
in the future. You know, what I mean, it's not science fiction anymore. It's in
yeah.
our houses at the moment. You just have to activate it or buy
Mm,
the technology and implement it in your house. And these things are available to the man in the street, and they're not expensive. So I mean, this
mm,
whole revolution has actually created such different markets. I mean. It's absolutely insane. You can just think about with the power crisis that's happening at the moment. You're getting solar that can be managed from anywhere from your cell phone. You can link it into your consumption. You can really look at everything from end to end in in your house and see what's good, bad, and ugly, as I said before.
wonderful, wonderful. And in your view, what's the role that artificial intelligence is playing in all this?
Okay, so yeah, so it's interesting. It's like what's happening with all these IoT initiatives and even the old sensory type of data is they're generating large amounts of data. So
Mm,
where the opportunity for us is that one is we can store that type of data, and secondly is that you can start visualizing in a way that makes sense to people. So
mm,
so this whole industry is booming, but what are you actually doing with the data? What value are you getting it? So
mm,
some of our customers are actually commercializing that data. They're receiving data from various sources and then selling it back to their customers and saying, look what we can generate from your data. So there's a
mm,
commercial discussion around it. So they can actually start taking data and selling it back as a service, whether it be baselining and saying, well, I've got 500 customers that I look after. What is the average or what's the most common um, power usage in a
mm,
three-bedroom house? You know what I mean? So that's one thing. Or in a factory your size, are you using too much? Are you using too little? So they
mm,
want to find these problems and then being able to solve problems. So businesses are asking, okay, well, I'm using power. Where am I using power? What is the
mm,
device that's using the most power?
mm,
And I use a quite a good example around that is like if you think about your house, and this is the same principle for a business, is that when you buy your house, you buy it with a stove. A
mhm,
stove is absolutely the most ridiculous thing that you could buy if you think about it. So it costs a lot of money. How often do you use it? I mean, so you use it for maybe 1 hour a day and so forth. So you want to start as a consumer or as a business, if you had a stove, is saying, well, how much power is that stove using? Is there an alternative? And that's
mm,
really what's happened in the market. Now you get these little air fryers. So an air fryer has made a stove absolutely obsolete. So what's happening with the stove is it's getting used once a year for Christmas dinners
mm,
when you're having friends over. So literally you've invested in something that's using electricity for a couple of times a year, and it uses absolutely a massive amount of electricity because it's designed to make food for 20 people. It's not designed food to make for a family of four. So you actually have the thing, and this is where data comes in, is to start identifying the the stoves of your business. You know, I mean, the things that are making that are not viable in your business, but that need to be taken out, and rather putting the air fryer in it. You know, and the example is that. So really, where data comes is seeing where, in terms of power, is what is using the most power. How do you optimize that power? How do you either replace it with something better or so forth. So it's very interesting in terms of what data can do for IoT. Start pinpointing the problem areas that you can start making those decisions that you can save money or be more efficient in terms of what you do.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's now talk about smart sensors. What are smart sensors? Because I find that whenever you're talking about the IoT, smart sensors come into play as well.
Yeah, so I think this is like really quite an interesting topic, because it's about an evolution that's happening in terms of this IoT space. So, like I said before, you got these guys that have these very expensive sensors that connected to machines, and they managed it, and they're very like expensive engineers manage it. And then you got this whole IoT wave where you got these dumb sensors at the point. What they were doing is they were just collecting data. They were just saying, what's the temperature, what's the temperature, what's the temperature, what's the temperature. But now where smart sensors are starting to come is they're starting to transact two ways. So you can start, like I said before, you can start saying, put my temperature at 24, or what is the most optimal temperature for my room? I mean, and the sensor then starts managing the at the edge. You know, it starts managing what it needs to do. It starts making decisions for you because it has some sort of intellect in it, and it knows what is happening. So smart sensors are just taking a sensor to the next level where you can actually interact with it, and it can start making those basic decisions on the edge where you don't need to be involved in those decisions anymore. So that's really what it's about. Is it's an evolution in terms of sensors. What can they do? So they can start doing more stuff than they ever could be doing without having to be prompted or told what to do. So
So would it be right to actually say that smart sensors depend a lot on artificial intelligence technology for them to make those?
Definitely. So remember, in terms of technology, you can get AI, which is artificial intelligence, which that takes a lot of data and starts making decisions on what's happened in the past. Or what you can do is put a whole lot of rules in place. So think about it in terms of like your house. You don't want your house to be at 40 degrees. So if it's outside, you want the temperature to be at a range. So you could programmatically say to a sensor, I don't want my house's temperature ever to be more than 26 degrees. And so you can programmatically create these type of environments as well. So you don't have to use artificial intelligence in all cases, but a lot of times you can programmatically say, I want this to be the range where my stuff is operating at. And then the smart sensor can manage it in terms of that. So you can use both in terms of programmatically saying what you want, and then the artificial intelligence sort of making the decisions for you, what they think is the best or the average or so forth in terms of the bigger data set. Yeah, hopefully I'm not getting too technical.
No.
Yeah.
You actually explaining it very, very clearly.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have said, because I'm all about, let's make the explanations easy. You're doing so well. Let's look at the challenges. What are the greatest challenges that businesses face when it comes to the use of smart sensors and the data that these smart sensors produce?
Yeah, so I think because a lot of there's a lot of technologies out there, there's a lot of hype, which means that people are jumping on the bandwagon thinking that they're going to get competitive advantage, they're going to get some sort of benefit. So a lot of the companies are jumping on it, not thinking the whole process through. So if you think about it, is the sensors one component of the whole idea. So I would say, like, a lot of the guys start realizing that just connecting sensors is not going to solve. It's not the silver bullet to all their problems. You need to
Mm,
like sort of there's a problem in terms of the thought pattern. You need to actually realize what problem do you want to solve and how you're going to get that value out of it. So that's always really the starting point. Is if you're going to be on this IoT journey, you need to understand what you want to achieve and then what technology and stuff is going to enable that decision that you have. And then once you realize that, you start putting sensors down. You start realizing the sensors are not the end game. The data and the decision making process is the end game. So you want to start, like I said, you want to go down what you call the customer data journey. You want to start visualizing those sensors. You want to see what's happening. You want to start finding the anomalies that are happening. What's the things that are not good in your business, and then start automating the decision making and putting some predictive side and saying, okay, well, this is what my environment looks like. This I've seen before. This
mm,
my office hasn't got enough. It's got too much carbon dioxide in it. It's not good for my people. What do I do? Do I then automatically put on a spare air conditioner system or whatever the case may be? So then you start getting the value out of it. So it's really about going through that whole process in terms of what do you want to achieve with your IoT initiative. I hope that makes sense.
makes a lot of sense. Does your company, play in the space of smart sensors? Do you guys provide that to clients?
So not us per se. So basically, we deal with a lot of vendors that have sensors, smart sensors, and our game is to basically grab the data and take the customer through the data journey. So show him what he's got. So we connect to any sensors that customers have already implemented. We don't do it. We don't do it per se now.
Okay, I see. So you extract data from these smart sensors that the
Yes.
clients.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then basically visualize it in a way, find those anomalies, do some automation around it, and then predict what the world is going to look like with those sensors, so that the customers can get that competitive advantage.
wonderful, wonderful. Then let's talk about some use cases or some examples of how you've assisted the clients in that space. What things have you done?
Yeah, so basically, whenever we deal with customers, especially with sensors and data, so the first problem that we always encounter is that they want to know uptime.
Mm,
So they have the sensor is connected to something that's an asset that does something. So really, the first and foremost things they want to know that it's up, that it's working. So that's always the use case. So they have a machine that they don't know if it's standing in a building somewhere across the country, and they want to know that thing is if it's actually working or not. So a lot of the use cases around work, that it's working, that it's there. The second use case that we get a lot for customers is to know where that asset is. So as you
mm,
know, as assets are very expensive, and a lot of customers want to know where that asset is. So the use cases are just being able to say, okay, well, I have 1,000 generators. Where are my 1,000 generators? Or
mm,
and it's just being able to identify the location of those of those data, of those assets. So I say uptime and sort of location is normally the first use case for any customer in terms of what they want to do. The next use case is then starting to come into more like the advanced stuff. So they want to then start looking at how do we take that asset and make it better. So
mm,
how do we optimize that asset? So like the example of the stove, you say, okay, well, I've got the stove that's absolutely ridiculous. It's very expensive to run, very expensive asset. In real terms, I only need an air fryer. So,
mm,
I mean, you want to be able to take that information and say, what is the most optimal way that asset can be done? When do I need to switch it on? When do I need to switch it off? What time of the day should it be? And as you know, you'll if you ride around town, you'll start looking at some corporates that their lights are on 24/7. I mean, we've got
mm,
an energy crisis, and the guys are doing so. When do you switch your lights off? when are people in your environment? When does the air conditioner need to be working at full volume? So all those type of analytics needs to come into place with your asset, saying, okay, what is the best utilization of my asset? I mean, when does my air conditioner operate at full volume? When is it off? When is it things like that? So really, it's about finding there's the optimization of it. And then in terms of like production or something like that is they start looking at the future and saying, well, and this is a lot of use cases at the moment with the machine learning is looking at machinery or some sort of asset and looking at when it will fail. Because that's what's happening in terms of assets. You want to know that that asset is getting maintained, it's getting monitored, it's getting used properly. So if people aren't using it properly, you want to know when it's going to break. And so that you can already preemptively say, well, my machine or my drill or my geyser is going to break today or my fridge is going to break today. I don't want to be stuck with that. I want to know that it's going to break in X amount of time and get the technician in to come and fix it. So a lot of these use cases are about preventative maintenance and then looking at when the machine is going to break so you can preemptively fix it so that you don't sit without that asset.
Exciting. I love that
Yeah.
whole predictive, mindset that is going on because then it allows people to actually prepare accordingly, right? If you
Yes.
know this machine can only last us for this long, you
Yeah.
can then prepare accordingly.
And another use case that we do quite a bit is so whenever you like say for example think about your vehicle, and it's not really a great example, but in terms of machinery, um, like say if your car is starting to splutter or something like that, you want to be able to know that it's not in a good place. You're not going to just ride it further. So a lot of the use cases that we have with customers is that they have machinery that is doing a function and that machine over time gets out of spec. It starts losing its settings. So with machine learning, you can start predicting when that machine is going to get out of production ready. So you can start saying, oh well, this machine is now starting to creep out of its frame that it should be operating. Is I need to send the technician to go and set it or go and change a part or something like that. So it's also about finding those little nuances that your production line needs to manage properly. Yeah. So there's a lot of use cases around keeping the spec of stuff in order so that it actually produces the best that it can do, that asset.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, what kind of companies do you work with then?
So most of the companies that we found work very well with us is because we do a lot of data, so big data type of environments is power, so utility. So anybody that has a utility problem, so they want to put down smart meters in terms of that. They want to start looking at their environment, their space. They want to see where the most power is used, how they can save power. Utilities also like water, how they're using water, when they should be switching off, what's the sort of predicting the amount of water they should be using, predicting what last month versus this month's going to look like. So a lot of utility side. And then in terms of mining, we've got a lot of mining customers. We've got a lot of, so if you're looking at optimizing machines in the mining space, let's think of other, so a lot of industries around that. We also do a lot of time and attendance. So we've got HR stuff. So we do a lot of mines and stuff that are, how the people are coming into the mine, whether they're leaving the mine, finding what's the most optimal way for employees. I mean, how many people should be on a shift. So there's a lot of people-oriented analytics that works very well. So you can analyze people. There's some of the use cases we also do is churn, start looking at how customers in terms of the sales process, when customers are going to churn. So the use cases are quite advanced, but most of the stuff is in terms of IoT, which is mining, manufacturing, and power, that we see a lot of use cases that people are looking to optimize their environment to make it better, save the money, especially with the energy crisis that's happening at the moment globally. I think power is a lot on people's minds at the moment. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's now shift into talking about automations. Okay,
Yes, yes,
there's almost like a race for automation. Um,
yes.
Everybody is talking about automation, and every business has got that on their agenda. Why do you think this is happening, and what is driving these automation trends?
Well, I think it's plain and simple. It's economics. You know what I mean? So, like in today's world, and Sarah, you'll know more than anybody, is that there's only two big levers that you can pull to for your business to be successful. One is
Mm,
sell more or get more revenue. And the second one is optimize your costs or reduce costs within your business. So those are the two levers
mm,
that you can pull as an organization. So I think
mm,
that's really what it's about is economics. Customers are looking for ways to reduce those internal costs, create competitive advantage in their market, be
mhm,
better than their competitors, finding those things that they should be automating and making their processes quicker, not relying on what we call key man people within the organization, being able to take those processes that are that could be automated and make it a lot quicker and offer better services. So I think there's this whole drive to reduce costs within organizations to make them better efficient and offer better services for their customers.
mm. Fantastic and well explained. And before we move on that topic, I would then want us to just explain what automation is, because you could actually have somebody thinking, what is this
Yes.
automation all about? What is automation?
Yeah.
What
So so
should
so
people be thinking about when they
yeah.
hear
So
about automation?
yeah. So it's basically what they as a human, you've got a daily task to do in your business. So whether it
Mm,
be answering the telephone, making coffee, or whether it's processing paperwork, processing orders, and so forth, that is has got some sort of repetition to it. So literally, if you think about a debtor's clerk, they do probably the same 99% of the tasks are the same all day and every day. So now, if you
mhm,
think about that in terms of you've got a big complement of staff that are doing debtors or creditors or any sort of repetitive work, that repetitive work can be automated, which
mm,
means is uh, why would one person do it at one take the same process and take a day to do it where another person does it in 1 hour? So
mm,
as a business, you'd want to look at that and say, okay, well, this person does that process in 1 hour. Why is the other person doing it in 10 hours? So
mm,
I would like to mimic what that person is doing in terms of the 1 hour scale and roll it out to the whole business. So that's really what automation is doing, is giving the tools to the person, to all the people in your team that are doing these reputable or these tasks that are
repetitive.
repetitive
Mm,
tasks, and be able to take them and say, okay, you start with process one, you do this,
mm,
two, three, and each of those processes in it are taking X amount of time so that you can then manage that whole process. So what the benefit for it is that you get everybody working on the same speed. You leverage technology to help people to be able
mm,
to to do these tasks as quickly as possible. So you give them the technology, whether it be a portal or somewhere to save it or get approvals or whatever the case would be. This process, then you run the process in terms of a end-to-end process to manage the time that it goes, and you replicate what's your best time in that automation process. Well, that
mm,
I guess is in a high level, and then the benefit is that you can start saying, okay, well, everybody is now doing it at 1 hour, so now I've reduced my overheads. I can deploy people to do other tasks, or you
mm.
can continually saying, okay, well, I think 1 hour is too long. I want it to be 17 minutes. Okay, how
Yes.
do I improve that? I look at the tools that I have to the disposal, and I improve the tools. I improve the skills. I give the guys more skills to do their jobs faster. So that's really what automation is taking the human and the technology together and making a tedious process quicker, faster, and more effective.
Mm, 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 mm. So would it be right for us to actually say Humans are then teaching the software to be able to do repetitive, mundane, business activities that humans sit and do all day long. They then, teach the software to be able to do those processes.
Yeah, I think that that is totally possible. I think obviously a little bit of a dangerous conversation because, like I say, I personally think that most tasks that people do on a daily basis are repetitive. So, I mean, if something's got repetitive, you can either improve that process, or you could make some sort of artificial intelligence do that process end to end. So, I guess there's going to be this move from pure people doing stuff without any technology to enhancing what they're doing and making it faster to finding those tasks that will actually be done without a human. So you think about it as like, I mean, a lot of people have been exposed to bots. Okay, so they're a little bit still early days for it when you do your banking. So that does help it. So I mean, imagine what that saved the banks in terms of having somebody answer your questions, because 80% of questions that you want to ask somebody has been asked before. So you could actually have that in the terms of bots. I mean, what are your operating hours? What are your this? So that takes away the whole need for somebody to say, "Hello, ma'am, how are you doing? What is your question today?" Yes, our office hours are 8 to 2, what I mean, and that type of thing. So you could have that process eliminated and done by bots. So there's definitely, and as this technology probably matures, these type of bots or artificial intelligence will be able to do more and more, which is concerning in its own right. But I mean, that's what economics will start proving is people would want competitive advantage in terms of their business space. So they will be doing it when they need to do it, and when the need arises, I guess. And the technology is there.
True, true. And I mean, that's a whole big conversation about the impact of, the bots and, the automation when it comes to people's jobs and so on. How does automation differ from business process management?
So sure, you're catching me there on the back foot there. So automation and business process, I think they're very similar. I think it's not really my forte of knowledge, but I'd say they'd probably be very, very similar in terms of what they do. I think the automation would be probably a little bit more using like artificial intelligence and the likes to do a process, where I think business process optimization would probably be exactly what you've got and making it more optimized, more better, and taking what you have and making it better, I would guess. But don't quote me on this. I might be 100% wrong here.
Okay, not a problem. So then let's get back into the automation conversation and the jobs. What is your view? Do you think people are going to be automated out of their jobs?
Well, I think the concept is plausible. I think that's really. I think we've still got a long way to go. I guess and in terms, if you're talking about yourself as a person, I mean, if you had to ask most people in today's world, you say, do you ever want to work again? And what would probably people say is no. Whether they should be working is a different debate, because, like I say, probably your purpose in life is to be doing some sort of work or not. So to being in utopia where you can sit on the beach and drink pina coladas would probably sound very enticing to most people in terms of automation, let the bots do everything. But in real terms, I think people still need to have that creative side. They still need to solve problems. They still need to have purpose. They still need to do stuff. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to be very happy. I take it. I don't know what your view of it, but I think it's going to be quite a difficult one to palate for a lot of people. And I think the other part that would be quite concerning to me is, like, if you had to look at a lot of the industrial revolutions of the past where people were disrupted, is the process took a long time. So literally whole markets could change, and the universities, the society could change, and things like that. These revolutions or industrial revolutions are getting more and more quicker. So I mean, you're almost like thinking, what is the future look for humanity? Is it going to be that you have to change careers 5 times in
Mm,
your lifetime? You know, do you have to go to varsity 5 times? And I don't know if people
mm,
will have that ability to change so quickly. So I think that would be quite a concern for me, is like how at the rate of change at the moment is like, will people be able to cope with it or not? And especially, I mean, there's always the outliers like the Elon Musks and stuff like that that would probably cope with anything, but the normal populace probably wouldn't be able to cope with change so quickly. I mean,
mm,
so I guess it's quite an interesting topic, but definitely there will be more automation and more, uh, of this coming because of the competitive advantage of an economics. Somebody, I mean, if somebody does it in your industry and does automate a whole lot of stuff, and they've proven a use case to it, the whole industry basically follows. I mean,
mm,
what it's like with the banking. Everybody had building societies 20, 30 years ago. And once the first ATM was put down, guess what? Everybody put
mm.
down ATMs, and that's
Yeah.
what's going to happen. So you'll never stop that evolution or that innovation. Somebody has to do it first.
Mm,
Yeah. So
mm,
and then
mm,
it'll snowball. So I think it's going to be quite an interesting topic, and whether people will. And I don't know if you've seen that movie, The Matrix. Is that what the future is? We'll be plugged into the metaverse, and bots will be cleaning us and feeding us, and our brains will be in some sort of utopia, drinking pina coladas and sun tanning ourselves to a crisp. And tomorrow we don't worry about the sun because we don't even have to put sunblock on because we're not real.
I know, I know. But look, I think human beings were created to work as well, right?
Yes,
Work is,
100%.
yeah, is our way of being. But it's a very interesting conversation because, and the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is, no one knows,
No, no.
what it's gonna look like. Just like you said, because the rate of change is just so insane. It's actually
Yeah.
very difficult to even predict. But I
Yeah.
think these are conversations that business leaders need to be having, um, just so that we avoid a situation where we have a whole class of people with no skills,
Yeah.
that are aligned to what is required by the prevailing digital economy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the jobs have been automated, and then
Mm.
what? To,
Yeah.
to, to the people whose jobs have been automated.
But maybe Sarah, it's not really a problem that we need to solve or worry about, because if I mean, you go take a ride down, you literally take 10 minutes out of Pretoria or Joburg, and you find a whole bunch of what's it called, sustainable farmers, what's it called, subsistent farmers. So
Yes.
and if you go right through Africa, Africa is literally subsistent farmers as far as you can see. They don't really care about technology and the metaverse and of business optimization. And I mean, I must say, if you ride past them, they seem pretty happy. Every city, maybe that's the answer. We all become subsistent farmers and get a little hectare of land and go back to our roots and go back to our ancestries and go farm for ourselves. Maybe that's the answer.
That's a very interesting viewpoint, except the pushback would be that, because automation is there, people would want to automate that process as well. Instead of you sitting there and doing your subsistence farming, if a bot or a robot can come and do that work for you, by all means, really.
Well, you've seen within what's it, large scale farming is also not done well for us, because like I say, it has solved the big problem in terms of feeding people. But, I
Yes.
mean, it's a lot of people, especially my age or whatever, is the food that's being produced on mass scale is not good for your stomach, and it's not really what you were designed to
Mm,
eat. So you're
yeah,
getting like
no, you're
this
right.
whole stomach ailments, so forth.
Mm,
So production, it might be good in terms of feeding the masses, but it might not be good in terms of your overall health and welfare. Like we
yeah.
said, with whether a person should work or not, or what foods they should be eating, is also another debate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. Maybe we'll all just become organic farmers, you know?
100%. Yes, if I could leave technology, become organic farming, but probably then you'd need robots to do it, to become more efficient and so forth. So,
Exactly. Yeah, no, very, very interesting. It's been a very exciting conversation. Just as we start wrapping up, I would want you
yes,
to speak about your time and attendance uh, automation solution that you have, and we know that time and attendance is not new. What
mm,
makes your platform, different from what is in the market? And
yeah,
can you predict absenteeism? I am very fascinated with this whole concept of you guys being able to predict activities. I love it. I really,
yeah.
really, truly love it. So, do you just want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I guess it starts with this word called garbage in, garbage out. So, I mean, like say in terms of human resources, and I think that's very topical in terms of what's happening with people, because this whole pandemic has really changed a lot of people's how they operate and how they're managing themselves. So, I think there's such a different world spin on human resources going forward. So I mean, technology for us is like the data that you're collecting in terms of people from the time that they're leaving university, what they're
Mm,
studying, what marks they're getting, what jobs they've been in, what's their salaries, how many times they've moved. I mean, how often they get promotions, how their performance appraisals are going. All these type of data is telling a story about an employee. And we in our business, we call it A-team players. So
mm,
imagine you can start predicting as an organization who the A-team players in terms of the market is, and then start taking them down a a journey in terms of your business and making sure that at a certain time they're getting promoted, you're giving them the right skill set, you're giving the right education, you're putting them in the right places, and you can get the most out of employees. It sounds a little bit big brotherish, but in real terms, if we're talking about competitive advantage, why would you not want to give your staff the best uh,
mm,
path to success as possibly, and the fact that they're an A-team player make them that they can do A-team work and not put them, into B-team teams and stuff like that, or B-team companies for that matter. So in terms of that's very exciting is that um, AI and what Oculus can do in terms of the data is empower like human resource managers to make those right decisions in the process and start
mm,
finding who are the good, bad, and ugly within their business. Either they need to give skill up or that they need to find good places for them, because in this world you don't want people to leave your organization, especially if you invested in them. So the fact
mm,
is, when you can start seeing the telltale signs that they are going to churn or they're going to leave your organization, you need to know about it, and you need to be able to make those decisions and put in actions that don't lose. I mean, I've been there as well. When you work for an organization and you eventually start getting despondent, the people aren't giving you enough
mm,
attention, you're not getting like that. You want to know that in terms of performance appraisal, what the data is saying is like this guy has got there's an opportunity for him to leave. You need to put in the extra effort with that guy and make sure that he stays and he's fulfilled in the organization. He's got purpose within the organization. So I think that's a very topical stuff. And I guess we could talk for hours about it. Is how do you keep your staff interactive? How do you keep
mm,
them that they feel part of the culture? You know what I mean? And there's a lot of ways to do it. Whether I mean, all the data that you generate from people within your organization, you can analyze it and start predicting what their career is going to be like and whether they're going to stay or not, and when you should be promoting
mm.
them. Yeah, very very interesting topic that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, you did say your system does predict absenteeism. Is that correct?
100%. Well, it's from the data that you're generating. So whenever an organization has got certain data, you can. It has to obviously be rich data that you can do it. It won't be able to predict those type of my tongue's getting tired here, but it won't be able to predict those type of things if you don't have rich data and
Yes.
in your organization. So you got to be a data orientated organization with your staff. You need to have been pulling data in from all different areas and start finding whether they're going to churn or not. So it must be system orientated.
Fantastic. And so does your system then allow for that data input, I suppose, here over time?
100%, 100%. So it pulls in data, starts looking at the trends, starts finding what are the telltale signs of people leaving. So it might be that they're going to they always have they go to the doctor on Fridays, or they miss Mondays, or something like that. Or so there's a whole lot of telltale signs. You say, okay, well, these are the telltale signs. This guy's not engaged. His work is late, or his performance appraisals have all of a sudden dropped. You know, I mean, the scores have dropped. He's got a lot of complaints on his thing. There's some telltale signs that you could put together and start finding the 2 or 3% of your organization that could be at risk of churning or leaving or being absent. Yeah.
I love it. And I love this whole concept of predictive, because then it also allows you to support people, right? Because if you see that, this employee is having issues, you can actually start supporting them and seeing what are the issues that they're actually having, and just give them an opportunity so that things do not escalate to a place where they actually fall off the bandwagon.
So, and you think about it. You've got a huge amount of staff that are, in various different locations, and you might have a manager that's not managing that person properly. And that person becomes the buffer between the staff and the HR department. Is you will never know that person is in any form of distress or not. So if that data pulls through and you start finding those areas that are causing distress for that person in terms of how they engage, what they're doing, I mean, you could find the answers to preemptively sort out those problems. It might be a managerial problem, it might be a personal home problem, or whatever the case may be.
I love it. And this also speaks to, this can also work as an intervention for mental health. You're 100%. Able to see quite early, before things get worse in a person's life, that, they probably...
So it's like an interesting fact. And what we do in our business in terms of like staff is, when I was in the big corporates, you basically did what you did is like a performance appraisal once a year, and literally it was like HR had given us a piece of paper and you fill it out and sit 20 minutes with your manager and like yes, thanks, move along, we've got targets to meet and we've got to do stuff. But in terms of that, so never really had any teeth in terms of the organization in the corporates that I've worked for. So like in our organization, and a lot of organizations do this, they actually have interventions with managers on regular basis, whether it be monthly, quarterly, or so forth, and then letting staff fill out health forms, and aggregate that into some sort of data that you can start seeing trends within the staff. If their score was, say, 98 out of 100, and all of a sudden it's 40 out of 100, there's some problem. So these type of interventions can be quite good for your organization to do, and keep your staff, especially with guys sitting at home. I mean, maybe you haven't seen the guy for a year or two or something like that. So bring some sort of interventions where they can do online, anonymous type of questionnaires and stuff, and so you can start determining their health and welfare.
Fantastic. And just as some parting shots, what would be your advice that you'd like to give to companies who want to start on the business data journey?
So I think we hear this all the time, and I guess the first thing that we always speak to customers about is, what do they want to achieve? So we've heard this a lot when we go to a customer and say, I want to implement AI. I want that to be AI'd. I want it to be AI'd. And then we're like, what do you want? No, I want that to be AI. Just make it happen. And then you're like, and then literally like you start, you don't know where to go. But so basically it's been understanding what you want to achieve or where you want to go. So it's really about what's your strategy of your business and the components of your business that can utilize and can be improved with data. So really, it's about finding or consolidating your strategy with your goals and the data, and start finding what you want to achieve. So always about that is, what do you want to achieve, and why do you want to achieve it? So plain and simple. And then I guess the most important thing is, if you don't have those skills within house to take you down a data journey, is to find a reputable company that focuses on data. Because like I say, it's like saying to a guy that's a professional golfer, tomorrow you're going to become a professional swimmer. Never going to happen. So it's always about sticking to your knitting and saying, okay, well, I'm good at producing bottle tops. I'm good at doing this. I'm good at that. This is not my game. Bring in the experts. Let them come and do the data journey for me and take me down the journey. And then what you'll do is you'll fast track that process and be able to, you can focus on your core attributes as an organization, and let the data guys give you the evidence that you can make those good and fast decisions to change your business and make it more efficient. So those are the two things that I would say is the most important in terms of starting a data journey: is know what you want to achieve, the goals, and then if you don't have the skills in-house, is to find somebody that can help you down the journey. It'll make it a lot quicker.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Okay.
It's been a very insightful conversation, Shawn.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very much.
so
Thank you very
much.
much. And
Yeah.
thank you for your patience. I mean, like I say, we don't do these things often, so it's nice to be able to have these conversations. And thank you very much for making it so easy to have these conversations, or so seamless, if I might say that. So thanks very much for your ability there.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Hey, I really,
Yeah,
really enjoyed the conversation, and just also the insights that you bring to the fore.
yeah,
It will be very, very useful for the executives that
yeah,
listen to this. Also, remember this space of data is a very new space, so a lot of people don't have a clear understanding. So it was
yeah.
great that we could have an expert come on board and
Well,
give insights.
yes. Well, so hopefully I've done it in terms of like understanding and what people would understand, and I haven't gone too technical, and I haven't gone not technical enough. So hopefully it's people understand what I'm saying there. Yeah.
No, it's been good. It's been good. Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much, Sarah.
Ciao, ciao.
So look after yourself, Sarah. Keep well, man. Speak soon.
Chat